Hi friends, I am Dr. Preeti Gupta, head of the Department of Environmental Studies from Thakur College of Science and Commerce. Today I am going to give the lecture on the problem of environmental problem associated with agriculture. Now, before we discuss about the environmental problems with agriculture, we should know what is agriculture, what are different types of agriculture, and what are the factors influence agriculture, right? Agriculture is the art and science of cultivation of the soil, growing crops, and raising animals or raising livestock. When people were not aware about how to do the agriculture, or we can say when agriculture was not widespread, that time people were shifting from one place to another place in search of food, or we can say they were hunting the wild animals, or they were gathering wild plants. When people learn how to do agriculture, when people learn how to grow crops, when people was not aware about how to do the agriculture, or we can say before agriculture became widespread, people moved from one place to another place in search of food, and for it they were hunting wild animals and gathering wild plants. About 11,500 years ago, people gradually learned how to grow cereals and root crops, and then people settle down to a life based on farming. When people began farming, or when people began growing crops, they also began herding animals and breeding wild animals, right? Adapting wild animals and wild plants for the people use. This is called as domestication. Now, the first domesticated plant was probably rice or maize, and the first uh, patch, the first domesticated plant was rice and maize, probably rice or maize, and the first domesticated animal was dog, then maybe sheep, goats were the next domesticated animals. Now, different type of agriculture. One minute, yeah. Types of agriculture: subsistence agriculture, intensive agriculture, extensive agriculture, commercial agriculture, plantation, mixed farming, dryland farming, wetland farming. Subsistence agriculture means what? Farmers primarily engage in subsistence farming for their own consumption. What is mean that whatever farmers were growing for themselves or for their family, there is never any extra to sell on the market. So whatever they are producing for their own consumption, right? They were not selling only for themselves or for their own family. They were producing the crops. Next type of the agriculture is intensive agriculture or intensive farming. Intensive farming is a type of farming where farmers cultivate the crops in a small farms, right, to receive maximum output by employing large number of, or by employing high task of labor force and agricultural tools. Additionally, they were using chemical fertilizers, chemical pesticides, insecticides, and why they were using to increase the productivity of the soil, right? Next is and this type of agriculture, which type of agriculture? Intensive agriculture is mostly famous in developing and underdeveloped countries where the population is higher, right? Demand for the cereal crops or other types of crops is higher. Shortage of land is present. So, to fulfill the demand of rising population, they are growing the one or more in this intensive agriculture. They are growing more than two crops in a small farms with the manual labor, with the manually, or we can say machines are not used in this type of farming. Next type of farming is extensive farming. Extensive farming is also called as the we can say it mechanical farming. Why it is called as a mechanical farming? Because the extensive use of equipment on huge farm. That means area of the farm is big, labor is less, or we can say less number of laborers are working in the huge farm. Most of the work is done by the machine in this farming. Which farming? Extensive farming. That's why it is also called as a mechanic farming. Now extensive farming on a produces one crops in a huge farm with the help of machine, because a bigger area is there, so total production may be higher, but per unit production is less, right? Because in extensive farming area is big and only one crops they are cultivating, so total production is higher but per unit production is less. And mostly extensive farming is present in the developed country, for example USA, Canada, where shortage of land is not present or scarcity of land is not a problem. In these countries population is less, so most of the work they are doing with the help of machine. In India we will find it is almost absent, except in some state you will find extensive farming is taking place, for example Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh. There you will we can find that extensive farming is taking place. Next is a commercial farming. Commercial is a type of farming that is responsible for generating revenue or generating high amount of revenue, right? And commercial farming again is mostly practiced in developing country. That means whatever they are producing, it is for selling instead of fulfilling the demand of the local people, right? So mostly it is present in the developing country, and in India we will find it is present in Gujarat, Haryana, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra. There you will find the commercial farming is taking place. Now, because it is for the commercial purposes, so we will find in this farming the use of chemicals, pesticides, insecticides are on a large scale, right? Third is a plantation farming. It is a extensive type of farming where we are cultivating one type of crops whole year, right? And plantation farming is also called as monoculture farming. That is monopoly of one type of crops. It is also called as a cash crop. Why it is called as a cash crop? Because demand of the plantation farming or whatever crops we are cultivating in the plantation farming, its demand in the world market is very higher. So in profit from the plantation farming is on a large scale. That's so why it is also called as a cash crops. For example, sugarcane, coffee, banana, pineapples. These all come under the plantation farming. Plantation farming provides employment opportunities on a large scale because maximum work in the plantation farming is manually work is there, instead of machines, right? So it's the demand of the labor is on a large scale. Then comes the mixed farming. The mixed farming is what, along with the crops, the farmers are also, we can say, rearing the livestock or rearing of the animal husbandries. Also, farmers are doing along with the agriculture. In the same field, they are doing both agriculture and the livestock rearing. This type of farming, which type of farming? Mixed farming is famous in the rich, mostly it is practiced in the rich developed countries of North America and Europe. Then comes the dry land farming. Dry land means the practice of cultivating crops without water or little moisture is present in the soil. Where we are doing the dry farming, where the annual rainfall is 20 inches, that is 50 centimeter rainfall take place. Right? It is utilized in the area with little rainfall or insufficient irrigation is present in the area, in that area. And by utilizing crops, this type of farming preserve the moisture, because already moisture in this area is less. So the crops which need the less moisture, which need the less water, that type of crops we will find are cultivating in the dry area where the irrigation facility is not present and rainfall is also taking place less. For example, millet, jawar are cultivating in the dry farming. Next is a wet farming, the crops which need the large amount of water, that will be cultivated in wetland areas where the rainfall is taking place on a large scale. Some crops you will find in initial stages, the landfills are flooded with the water, which agricultural lands are flooded with the, some crops need that landfill should be flooded with the water. For example, rice. Initial stage you will find rice are flooded with the water. Rice field are flooded with the water. So in wetland farmings take place where the heavy rainfall is taking place, or in the during the rainy season only, when the climate is moist, that time farming take place. Paddy, sugarcane, you will find are cultivating in this type of farming, in this type of farming, right? That is a wetland farming. Then comes next, what are the factors influencing agriculture, right? First one is physical factors, then the economic factors, then the human factors, right? Now, physical factors under it, climates, physical, or we can say natural factor. Most agriculture is mostly dependent on nature, right? So physical or natural factor, that is climate, soil, and steepness, that is nature of land, relief or topography. Then economic factors, distance from the market, government control, subsidies, and the human knowledge and the preference of crops and livestock. Now, physical factor, climate, and the climate, temperature and the rainfall influence the types of crops that can grow. For example, wet tropical areas climate is favor for rice, because wet tropical area where the rainfall is taking place on a large scale, so that is favor for rice. Wheat crops need the cool climate, but moisture, rainfall should be less. So wheat, where the climate is cool, dry area is present, that is favor for the wheat cultivation. Soil, fertile soil is very important. In poor soil, means the poor output will be there. And some, for example, black soil is favorable for the cultivation of cotton. So, best example in India we find Maharashtra, where we find the black soil is present. Cotton mill production is taking place on a large scale. We need the alluvial soil, so near the bank of river we will find alluvial soil is present, so there we will find wheat production is taking place on a large scale. For example, Punjab, Haryana, there we will find wheat production is taking place on a large scale. Then third physical factor, that is steepness or nature of the land, right, or topography or relief. Maximum farming take place in a plain area, which is a favorable for cultivating the crops. In hilly area also is taking place, but in hilly area the crops production take place less compared to plain, because plain is suitable for the farming. Second is economic factors. Economic factors, capital is important, right? Money, farmers need the money for they have to invest. Farmer has to invest in the farm. They can use to increase the amount of inputs in the farms. If they have the money, they can use the modern techniques in the farm to increase the productivity of the crops. For it they have to use the yield, which will increase the high yield they will use for increasing the productivity of soil. They have to use the machine and technology which can increase the yield, so for it they need the money, right? So economic factor. Then the government controls, that is government policies are also important. How much facilities our governments are giving to the farmers, subsidies are given by the government, so that is also favorable factors or which influence the agricultural activity. Distance from the market, right? Farmers grow the crops which are in demand, and change to meet the new demand. According to the demand, farmers are growing the crops. For example, rubber plantation, farmers in Malaysia have switched to oil palm. Why? Because as the demand of rubber has fallen, so in place of rubber, farmers of Malaysia started cultivating the oil palm. So, and the distance from the market, if the market is close to the farming area, it will be more favorable for the farmers, because farmers, right? Then the human knowledge and the preference of crops and livestock, right? In least developed countries such as India and Java, farmland use large and cheap labor instead of using machines, right? Where the population is higher, so instead of using a machine, I've given the example of Japan and sorry, not Japan, India and Java. But in Japan, where the population is less, so there in place of the human, they are using a machine in the agricultural field, right? These I have given the introduction. What are the factors responsible? This I have given the idea of the factors influencing agriculture and what are the different type of agriculture is present, right? Now next is environmental problem associated with agriculture, right? um, if we will take the example of the India only, Till 1960, the production of crops or production of cereal crops in India was less, right? We were importing the food grains from other country. Um, and because shortage of food grain was present in our country. So in 1960s, we have introduced a green revolution. That was a period of Lal Bahadur Shastri and Indira Gandhi time. We introduced a green revolution. At that time, environmentalists were very well aware about it, that this green revolution in future will create the problem of environment. Mm. And economic problem will be there, and the suicide cases will increase in the future. But at that time, our priority was what? To increase the productivity of crops, right? So we have introduced the green revolution. In the green revolution, we have introduced the new techniques to increase the productivity of soil, to increase the productivity of crops. We have used, for example, hybrid seeds. We have used then use of fertilizers, use of pesticides, irrigation facilities, over cultivation, modern machine. All we have in new techniques we have introduced in we have introduced through green revolution, right? Whatever new techniques we had introduced, all are responsible for reducing fertility of soil. For take the first example, use of fertilizers. Chemical fertilizers we are using in the agricultural field, and we got success also in increasing fertility of soil, increasing the production of crops, but for a shorter period of time, because farmers are continuously using the chemical fertilizer in the agricultural field. So chemical percentage in the agricultural fields are increasing, and because of it, fertility of soils are reducing. We also use the chemical pesticides in the agricultural field. Why we have introduced or used the chemical fertilizer in the agriculture field? To destroy the pests or to kill the pests and insects which are damaging crops, right? But what is the problem with the pesticides? Pesticides kill the pests and insects. Along with it, they are also killing the insects which are helping in regaining the fertility of the soil, right? So because of it, the fertility or degradation of the soil is taking place. Irrigation. First time, green revolution was introduced in Punjab, right? Later on, then it came in Haryana and UP. Punjab comes in the rain shadow area, but Punjab don't have the scarcity of water, right? They have the five rivers, so shortage of water is not present in Punjab. And because five rivers are present, so fertile soil is present, but rainfall is not taking place because Punjab comes under the rain shadow area. So irrigation was introduced in Punjab, right? Now what is the problem with the irrigation? Large amount of, and which kind of irrigation we have introduced in the Punjab? Which kind means which type of irrigation? Canal irrigation. So through canal irrigation, large amount of water is coming in the agricultural field. Maybe that much of water is not needed for the crops. And because large amount of water is coming in the agricultural field, so water logging is taking place, and due to it, evaporation is taking place. Subsoil is coming on the topsoil, that is salinization is taking place in the agricultural field. and that is salinization means soil is reducing its fertility. If the farmers are using the well irrigation, that is underground water they are using in the agricultural field, so maximum you will find underground water is a salty water that they are using in the agricultural field. That is also salty water, that is mineral water they are using in the agricultural field, so it is reducing the fertility of the soil with the help of irrigation, right? Next is a Mm, wait, yes. Then soil erosion, that is degrades the soil structure, um, and increases its tendency to become compacted due to the loss of organic matter with the top soil, right? If the land is becoming barren, so maybe topsoil will be eroded by the wind or by the rainwater, so it will degrade the quality of the soil. Monoculture, it refers to the cultivation of crops over a large area. That is one type of crops we are cultivating continuously, we are cultivating in the same area, right? Now, monoculture crops we will find demand for the fertilizer in the monoculture crops will be higher, right, compared to over cultivation of the crops. In over cultivation, there's a difference between over cultivation and monoculture. Over cultivation means more than carrying capacity of soil, we are cultivating the crops for a longer period of time, right? So it will reduce the fertility of the soil. Monoculture, same type of crops we are cultivating for a longer period of time. So a particular type of nutrients will exhaust from the soil, and monoculture need more fertilizers than the cereal crops, right? So that will also responsible for reducing the fertility of the soil. Use of tractor, must in the developed countries shortage of labor is there. In India also we will find Punjab, Haryana, they are using the tractors which make the land harder or which make the soil compact, right? And because of compact, you find the water percolation will be less, and or runoff water will be more in the agricultural area. Then expansion of the agriculture, with the intention of expanding agriculture, people are engaged in the activities like deforestation. Um, um, that is demand for the crops are increasing because of high population. So, and though the fertile land is limited in the nature, so farmers are entering into forest area, they are cutting the trees and planting the and doing the cultivation in that area. So because of the deforestation also, we deforestation why it is taking place for the agriculture, so we are losing the valuable fertile soil. Greenhouse emission, that is air pollution, we can are taking place from the agricultural field. uh, for example, the wastage of the agriculture, farmland, farmers burn, if they burn the wastage, then the uh, emission of the greenhouse will take place from the field, right. So these all are the environmental problems associated with the agriculture, that is over cultivation of crops are responsible for reducing the fertility of soil. Chemical fertilizers, chemical insecticides, pesticides, then soil erosion is taking place. Monoculture, use of modern machine, that is use of tractors expansion of agriculture and the greenhouse gases are responsible for it. Now, how we can solve this problem, right? That is, we cannot say we have to stop doing the agriculture, or we have to stop using modern techniques in agriculture. We have to make changes in the method of practicing agriculture, right? Now, how what that is sustainable agriculture practices. What you mean by the sustainable agriculture? We want the egg farming should take place forever, not for a shorter period of time, right? We want that farming, whatever farming at present we are doing, the future generation also want to do the farming in the same land. And when they are able to do the farming, future generation, when sustainable practices will take place where in the agriculture area, then only the future generation will able to do the farming. Otherwise, the way at present the farmers are cultivating the crops, and if we are not changing in the method of practicing of agriculture, in the future we will face the problem. Not the future generation, we will also face the problem in the future. Shortage of crops will be there. Why? Because shortage of fertile land will be there, and when shortage of production will agriculture production will take place, naturally hunger will be higher. So we have to follow or practice the sustainable agriculture. Now, some practices for controlling the land degradation are strip farming, right? Strip farming, it is a narrow and long farming. We are doing it, the cultivating the crops. Cultivated crops are sown in alternative strips. By this, we are able to prevent the water movement, or we are able to prevent the soil erosion. Our aim is what in the farming? Soil erosion are taking place on a large scale, right? So that we have to prevent it, right? So how we are able to prevent it? By doing the strip irrigation, or by doing the contour farming, or by doing the step farming. Step farming, contour farming, strip farming, objective of this farming are what? Control the soil erosion. Difference is what? Most contour farming, strip farming we can follow in the hilly area. Mostly contour farming we will find it is present in hilly areas, right? And where farmer, or in the simple way we can say, if the farmers are lazy, then they can do the strip farming. Otherwise, contour farmings are favorable in the hilly areas. By this, we able to control the soil erosion by controlling the speed of water, right? Second is a crop rotation. Instead of doing the over cultivation, right, we have to practice in which the different crops are grown in the same area, following a rotation system, right? Means, for example, there is a very good combination between maize and beans, right? In one season we cultivate the maize, in another season we cultivate the beans. Maize take the nitrogen from the soil, and beans will give the nitrogen back to the soil. So by this there will be no need to use the chemical fertilizer in agricultural field, because crops itself are regaining the fertility of the soil. So crop rotation. Ridge and furrow method, that is you will find one part. Ridge and furrow means um, ridge will be higher level of the land. Higher means I'm not talking very higher, little bit higher, and another part will be low area, right? So if we will if we will do the watering on the crops, so that water will come into the low area. Low area we can say in the simple language nala, right? So that is, we have to make a high area where we plant the where we sow the seeds of the crops, and in the low area, that we can say, that is a drainage, we can say, or nala, there the if the surplus of water will be there in the upper area, that will come down in the drainage or in the low lying area. That is a ridge and a furrow practices. That is, formation soil erosion is one of the factor responsible for land degradation. It can be prevented by formation of ridge and furrow during the irrigation, which lessen the runoff water, right? So where we are doing the irrigation, in that area we have to follow the ridge and the furrow, because as we said, large amount of water is coming in the agricultural field. That water we have to control it, we have to prevent by controlling the runoff water, we are able to control the soil erosion, right? So contour farming, we have said it already. Yes, use of organic fertilizers, chemical fertilizer, we have said it is responsible for reducing the fertility of the soil. So try to use the natural fertilizer in the agricultural field. What is a natural fertilizer? That is, we can say, a fertilize manure we can use in the agricultural field, right? Fertilizers, manure or the animal wastage we can use in the agricultural field. With the increase availability of the chemical fertilizers since the late 1970s, and rise of the labor cost since 1980s, the utilization of organic fertilizers has dramatically declined. So in order to prevent food shortage in worldwide, large amount of chemical fertilizers have been applied to arable fields, and because of it, land degradation is taking place, and land degradation, nitrogen leaching, reduction in soil organic matter is taking place. So instead of chemical, try to make the use of the natural fertilizers. Next is a next sustainable agriculture practice is keeping the land fallow, right? It is a, instead of continuously using the land, keep the land barren for shorter period of time, not for a longer period. If we keep the land barren for longer period of time, land will come direct exposed to wind or direct exposed to water. So what will happen? Wind or water will blow or flow the top soil, or in the top, as we know, in the top soil only fertility is present, right? So keep the land barren for shorter period of time. Soil will regain its fertility by itself only, and there is no need to use the chemical fertilizers or extra fertilizer in the agricultural field if we are keeping the land barren for shorter. For shorter means we can keep the land barren for one season or maximum two season. That is, for a 1 year we can keep the land barren, but not for a longer period of time, right? That is a that is a way of controlling, controlling, or we can say this is a way of regaining the fertility of the soil. Then a rational use of irrigational facilities, right? Instead of using canal irrigation, instead of using mm, well irrigation, we can use the drip irrigation, we can use what is called sprinkle method, right? For drip irrigation for big plants and sprinkle for the small plants, right? By drip irrigation, by sprinkle irrigation, farmers are, we will find, are able to have a surplus of water, and that surplus of water we can supply to other area where the scarcity of water is present. So rational use of irrigation facilities. Soil enrichment, that is pesticides and insecticides are responsible, as we say, are responsible for reducing the fertility of soil because they kill the pests and insects which are damaging the crops. Along with, they also kill the insects which are regaining helping in regaining the fertility of the soil. So good soil can increase the yield as well as creating more robust crops. It is possible to maintain and enhance the quality of soil in many ways. Some example include living crops residues, right? Farmers are burning at present. You heard it that Punjab farmers are burning their wastage. So instead of burning it, they can leave the crop residues in the field, and that will help in regaining the fertility of the soil. And they can use the composted plant materials or animal manure, right? Then another way of sustainable agriculture practices technological enrichment, right? Uses of satellite technology and artificial intelligence in agriculture is linked with increasing the agricultural productivity. uh, Technology means, for satellite technology is what? For example, remote sensing satellites, right, which provide the key data for monitoring the soil, snow cover, drought, um, and crop developing, right? Remotes without physically going to that area. With the help of remote sensing, we will get the information of the soil, or we are able to monitor the soil, snow cover, and crop developing, right? With the help of remote sensing, rainfall assessment, we can do it, right? Right. For example, it will help the farmers to plan the farming and how much amount of irrigation they will need for the crops. So, with the help of remote sensing, with the help of satellites, they will get the information, they will get the idea of the farmland, how much rainfall is taking place. If it is less, so they will use the more irrigation, or if a heavy rainfall is taking place, so they will use the less irrigation facilities, right? So by this also we are able to cultivate the crops, right? In next lecture, it is said that the deserts are not given by the nature. Human activities are responsible for giving desert to nature, right? In next lecture, I will discuss with you the desertification. What is the desertification? What are the reason for desertification, right? Thank you.